Cool, cool, cool. Right, we should be good. Okay, there we are. Hello. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us once again. It always starts quite slowly and then ramps up as somehow Facebook manages to do its distributive job. But I'm Nathan Wrigley from WP Builds. It's the Facebook Live that we do every Monday at 2 p.m. UK time where we talk about the WordPress news. And I always get this wrong. Over there, yes, get in. Over there is Paul Lacey. So, hello, Paul. Do you want to give us your quick pitch, who you are, what you do, and all that?
Yeah, hello. My name's Paul Lacey. I'm co-founder of the Dicky Bird Studio. So we're a web agency that specialises in niching for websites that have something to do with birds. So if you're a chicken farm or something like that, then we're probably the best choice for that kind of stuff.
So any poultry-based website is your
poultry-based parrots, stuff like that as well. And we've done some history websites about extinct birds as well. Also, I'm a brand ambassador for RunCloud, but they probably don't want me to be now.
No, unless they've got chickens in the logo. Yeah. No,
that was
good.
One,
I like
Nathan,
that. That's a new and interesting elevator pitch that we've not had before.
We're niching down. We're niching down now. So
you're welcome to that niche, Paul.
Yeah. Yes, you can own that. There's hundreds of US cents to be made in that niche. Yeah. You can have it. It's all yours. Cool. And then right down there, yes, I'm doing well. 2 out of 2 is Jay Okey. Hello, Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay Okey from Launch Digital Group. We're a web development and digital marketing agency in Melbourne, Australia.
And
we've been edged out of the poultry niche by Paul, but I'm sure we'll find somewhere else you can find our niche.
Yeah, and already Ben comments coming in saying, "Look, it's Ben Pines, so needs no introduction." And I've got it right. I've totally nailed it. 3 out of 3. Ben Pines is down there, but introduce yourself anyway, Ben.
So I'm the CMO at Elementor, and Elementor is a site builder for birds. So take away and drag and beak, I don't know, your website, you can do it with Elementor.
There is no more need for the rest of this production. We should just stop there because it's not going to get better than this. But
from here.
We'll give it a go. Do you know it's important to laugh, isn't it? I really do believe that it's very important to laugh. Let me just put my screen on for a moment and show you what we're talking about. So if you go over to wpbuilds.com, as you can see on the screen, click on Archives, News Archive, like I'm loading up right now, and then click top left always. It's the newest one. I've got a picture. As if we have the logo, the album art. I always put food on, and guess what it is this week, guys? It's eggs. It is literally pictures of eggs. What a great coincidence. It's just ridiculous. So this is what we'll be talking about today. Let me put everybody back on because you don't want to see my website for any more than you have to. Let's get stuck into it. So we've got various different people taking on various different things, but the first thing that we're going to discuss this week is actually going to be taken by a mixture of Jay and Paul. It's all about usability testing in Gutenberg, and I bet Ben's got something to say about this as well, even though he hasn't had a chance to look at this one potentially. Who's going to lead off, Paul or Jay?
Jay, you go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I just thought it was very interesting to I only watched the first video and just had a quick read of the script that they were going through. And it's just really enlightening to see someone who's clearly brand new to building a website or not even building a website, putting content on a website, and just seeing their first experiences with logging into WordPress, creating a post. Those two tasks seemed fairly easy, but once it got past that and when they started to use the Gutenberg editor, it was very interesting to sort of see how someone's trying to follow what seems to be a simple set of instructions, and just it was just utterly soul destroying from that point on when I started trying to use it. Even just sort of things that I took for granted where they're trying to use the editor but they're mistaking the person's getting distracted by the admin navigation on the left hand side, and they're looking to how do I bring in an image, or how do I do a content block or things like that. So just watching them, and it was enlightening, but it's also sort of frustrating at the same time. Just watching someone fumble around.
Yeah.
Paul obviously it's really interesting, but yeah, it's very very interesting and frustrating experience.
Yeah.
I could only stomach one video though. I couldn't watch the rest because it was just hard.
It was more of the same, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more of the same. Yeah.
It was just other people just stumbling through.
Yeah, so I'll just explain a bit of the background. So what they did was the Gutenberg, the guys behind Gutenberg, they've sent out a usability company to test stuff, and then they record it, and they've put 3 of the videos online, and it's obviously people that have never used WordPress, because simple terminology like post and page was completely unfamiliar to them, and they were given this 16-point checklist of things to do, and basically at the end of it they needed to have created a really super simple page with Gutenberg, and it was just a catalogue of failures and frustrations, as they could not find. Like the first one was login, everybody nailed that was easy, and then it was add a block, and it was a cover block, and it was just utter failure in every case. And the one guy that fluked it, I think that is the word for it, he fluked it. He just happened to just click on the right thing at the right time, and so it was just a bit, if you work with Gutenberg, it's a piece of cake. You can do this stuff easily, but anybody who's coming across it for the first time, you suddenly realise, man, all that stuff's hidden. I'd never noticed it was hidden. It's all locked away. Everything's been stripped back to nothing. And, if you were part of the team that was putting this together, I think it would be a real wake-up call, because they all failed to one extent or another. And I'm sorry I've interrupted you, Paul, but I thought it was good to add a bit of context.
Just had me asking some questions, like who, I've written them down just so I don't forget, but who's the block editor really aimed at? So if you've got a product like Elementor or Beaver Builder, it's clear who that's aimed at. But and then if you look at the block editor now at the moment, what is it easy to do? Tell me something that it's easy to do with the block editor.
Paragraphs.
Plus, I think every test it's interesting to compare it to. I'd give the 2 tests and see if there's differences between the classic editor and the Gutenberg, and see if you can learn things that. But definitely, I agree. Like the kind of person, like a developer going into this and a designer going into this, and ages also matter. The persona is it really matters where Gutenberg aims at. I haven't heard like a clear statement, like the number one persona that we're after is like bloggers or newbies, or I'd be also interested in finding that out.
Yeah. The other thing I found interesting as well, watching the person use the Gutenberg editor, is there was for me, I found it interesting because I would just type as a keyboard and press enter and things like that, whereas the user, after interacting with a block, they weren't necessarily thinking of the keyboard as a way to create additional content. So I know that Gutenberg, usually you might interact with the media block or an image block, and then you hit enter and it automatically brings up the next block. Yep. But users didn't know to do that. So there's the discoverability. Even like I was watching the plus icon on the left-hand side, but people didn't necessarily see that there's a plus icon that they could press, or just everything's hidden away.
Even the helper text, the sort of text about, click here to add a block, which is grayed out, and deliberately so to make it less obtrusive. Nobody, not one of them saw it. And so they had no idea, because as soon as the mouse hovered over that bit, it evaporated and went away. So that useful moment that they could have had. And it just kind of struck me that maybe there's an opportunity here to like embed a video in a new post, like we have with all sorts of plugins, and you see it once and you can dismiss it forevermore. Just a real quick 30-second primer on, okay, here's what blocks are, here's how you do it, and then you click the button, tick the box, it'll never come back. But there it is for the first time. Yeah. But also the fact that
walk me like a highlight, walk me through.
Yeah.
Walk me through the demo.
Also Jay and I were talking before we clicked go on this, and the things like Elementor, all of the controls, they're just there all the time. They're sort of locked to the side, so your eye is kind of drawn okay, there's all the stuff, it's available, I'll drag it in. Whereas with Gutenberg, they've made a big effort to make it evaporate and go away. And I think that maybe is part of the problem. But so my thoughts were, I was really, really surprised by how, people had very short concentration spans, you know, and that'll be the same for me. I mean, I'm not dismissing that would be exactly the same. But their mouse was constantly moving. So the mouse was just left, right, up, down, you know, all over the place, desperately in search of the next place where it could possibly lurk, and never a sort of
desperation.
I'll dwell here for a bit and explore this. Okay, let's just sum up the whole screen. Let's find every icon and systematically go through them all and see what they all do. There's none of that at all. So I don't know if these were the worst. Yeah. Interestingly, Ben, do you do a lot of this with Elementor? Do you put people through usability stuff, whether that's complete strangers or your own staff or whatever?
Yeah, what we do is, if it's a new feature, we'll actually we're less into the online usability tests and more into actual putting people in rooms and seeing and learning from that. So we did it for certain features that we wanted to add and thought about the right way, and actually it caused us to postpone one release and to make sure we make it right. And the other thing we do it is to bring a new group that hasn't had any experience with, pretty much similar to the kind of group showing here, and kind of seeing how they interact with it. But also we follow up with this group by, trying to give them a few basic steps and seeing how they progressed along a short workshop.
Yep. Jose, I'm going to presume it's Jose in the comments that said, I have to say that I love Gutenberg as an idea, but the truth is that the UI UX is a nightmare. That being said, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities, more so if you can use Elementor or an ACF. Yeah,
it does for people who are developers like some of us, because we can get excited, and I'm excited about creating my own blocks with ACF and then being able to give a tutorial to my clients on exactly how to use this. But there is no tutorial for the 30% of the whole internet who are coming in and using this, because this, at the moment, the block editor is not aimed, like Ben said, at a particular user persona. So in Ben's case with Elementor, you know what the user persona is, and you can handcraft the one user interface exactly for that user persona, and then you can get feedback from your user persona, and your audience. So the question that just came to my mind was, did Gutenberg just launch a little bit too early? And that, because if you come into this new, you'll be typing in blocks into the plugin thing, and you'll get, and I don't want to criticize these, but they are kind of ridiculous plugins that try and make Gutenberg into a page builder with the most ridiculous user interface for creating high quality visual layouts that you could ever imagine, compared to just, why not just use a page builder? So I'm not worried about page builders going away anytime soon now. So thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, that article probably helped collective sigh of relief for page builder users all over the place. Barna Buxbaum, who Ben maybe knows because of the the Katka, he's saying, same here, Elementor blog templates and Gutenbergs for blog content. Interesting, blog content with Gutenberg. I must admit, I've started using, for simple paragraph after paragraph, I've started using Gutenberg because it is quite nice. The up down, move a paragraph up, move a heading up. It's quite nice for that. But anything else, no. And Dave Toomey saying, the classic editor for the world. Yeah. Let's move on. I'm going to miss out the media library story just because there's not a lot in it. And I will actually, this one is taken by Jay, but it speaks to the exact point that Paul Lacey just made about trying to make plugins that will allow Gutenberg to be a site-wide option, headers, footers, and so on. Well, on the Felix-Arntz.me website this week, he's put together a plugin which we mentioned a couple of weeks ago called, now what is it called? I've forgotten, the Block Areas plugin, I believe. And he's not claiming that this plugin is going to last for long. It's just an exploration of what you can do with Gutenberg if you can do headers and footers. And he's very much saying, don't put this in production because it's not going to survive. I'm just trying things out. What did you think, Jay? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't played with the plugin myself, but it's one of those things, and with Gutenberg, I mean, one of the things, what problem is it trying to solve? And this is one of the areas that, as a developer, I find most interesting about Gutenberg. I'm not saying the current iteration is the correct thing, but with Gutenberg, if you can basically use it as a common API to develop blocks for things like the header, the footer. The UI on the front end is still a work in progress, but if we can start to, we've got in WordPress, we've got widgets, we've got content, we've got meta fields, we've got so short codes, things like that. Whereas if we can have a universal API that we can go, okay, we're going to interact with this Gutenberg API to produce different types of content. It means as a developer, you've sort of got one thing that you're learning. Also, if you can be consistent in terms of how someone starts to interact with and build different types of content across the website, that can be a good thing. But yeah, obviously, with watching the user testing, there's still a long way to go with Gutenberg as an option.
Yeah, I have to say that in terms of site-wide, I have to put a bit of a plug here. Because we just released today like a tutorial showing how to create a one-pager, including a header and footer. So I think in that realm of like site areas and the way you control it with conditions, I really think that Elementor set like the benchmark here in terms of easy to use. I don't know if you've noticed, if you tried out the conditions, the display conditions, and how you can actually decide if it's across the site, your headers, your footer, single archive. And I think that's a great direction and a great way for people who are non-techie necessarily to control different areas of these dynamic areas.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make it so that Gutenberg can be the conduit to do that. But it just feels like I don't know. It feels like trying to make a Mini into a Ferrari a bit. We're not. It's not quite going to work just yet. But laudable. And all he was saying was, look, here's how it could be done. And we'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. But it's interesting. He's made it possible. You can do headers, footers, areas that you want to, whatever area of the site you want. And he's managed to wrangle it into Gutenberg. And I think the idea is, okay, core team, pick up on this, see how I did it, and then do it better. And we'll see.
I mean, I think it's just
that Gutenberg was planning to do, isn't it? I mean,
it's one of the it's coming.
I think Gutenberg is. The idea is starting off with pages and what's in the editor, but effectively they want to make it so that it's going to be the way, to some degree, that you're going to be interacting when you're building a WordPress website. So while it's the editor, the plan was to always take it out of the editor and use it for theme customization and replace widgets, replace shortcodes, replace the various sort of aspects, even potentially the menu system, but obviously it seems to be that I feel like they've probably sped past the editor phase too quickly, and I think they've been maybe a little bit too ambitious and released fast, which potentially could be a good thing, could be a bad thing in terms of at least they're getting feedback, but what they're doing with their feedback, will I guess time will tell.
Okay. Right, I'm going to move us on, if that's all right. I'm going to do very, very quickly 3 things about WordCamps. WordCamp US, if you're going to be going to WordCamp US, which is in St. Louis, I keep wanting to say St. Louis, but I'm sure that's wrong. St. Louis in the US in November. Then they've called for speakers. If you click on the link in the show notes, then go and get signed up. There's another article about WordCamp in Europe and some stats that they threw out. I know that Ben was there. Ben, but I never Ben and I I think it's fair
We
to
were
say
like
Ben and I
second
missed each
master.
other about 18 times. Ben came and I wasn't there, and then I came and he was gone, and it just never worked out, did it?
It was like a comedy where we play the same character.
yeah. We'll try. Are you going to US? If you are, I'll make an effort. I'll see you there. But yeah, there's a call for people to if you want to be a speaker and you want to do that, sign up. And also, there's a WordCamp Asia, which is interesting. WordCamp in Asia in 2020. 21st of February to the 23rd of February in Bangkok. Now, I don't know about you, but it sounds to me like a fabulous excuse to go to Thailand next year. WordCamp Asia, lots and lots of, no doubt, I think they've amalgamated about 24 or 25 different kind of WordCamps, little WordCamp meetups and all that kind of thing, so it's going to be massive. Anyway, there we go. Three items all about WordCamps, particularly the US one. And what else have we got? We've got Jay. Again, Jay, you're totally pulling it out this week, really going the extra mile. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks about headless and about how little we understand about headless. I think Jay is the best equipped. But we got this new crash course about making WordPress headless, and you're going to talk about that for a moment. Great.
Well, I watched it today, actually, just before we went through. So one of the things we've been talking about is, headless, and it's all probably a bit above our pay scale at this stage and very early technology. But, it seems like every week that a WP Builds comes out, there's more stories about WordPress headless and different plugins that are supporting it and different web hosts that are coming out to, basically use WordPress as a backend and to produce a static website and host it on static servers. So it was really good, really interesting to watch it. It's a 28-minute video. I actually watched it on double speed just to get a feel for it. So I didn't actually do it myself, but it just gave me an idea of how people go about building a WordPress headless website. But yeah, as the instructor, I can't remember the name of the person that did the course, but it was WP Cast, which it was Alex Young.
Alex Young,
WP Cast.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I just watched it, and it was great. It was surprisingly, I understood most of it.
Oh, great!
He actually made use of a plugin which we'll be bringing up a bit further down the track, which is WP GraphQL and ACF, and just it was really fascinating video to see. How those sort of websites get put together.
It's interesting. The word ACF, if it's a word, we keep using it all the time. It's just suddenly occurred to me that every episode, on some level, we talk about it. We really need to get him on, don't we, and start chatting about it again.
We need a glossary.
Yeah. No, we just get him on and start talking about ACF with him. Anyway, thanks for watching that and for giving it the thumbs up. I didn't know how useful that would be, but that's good. Jay, is it all right if we miss the next one out because of time? That's scaling the maintenance one, and we'll go straight to. Is that all right?
Yeah.
We'll go straight to WPM UDev. This is basically an advert from them. They've got, if you're into content marketing and you kind of feel you'd like to do that for somebody else, the guys at WPM UDev have put out an advert. They're after now let me get this right. They're after a blog editor, blog and email editor, marketing and social media manager, and a WordPress blogger evangelist par excellence. This initiative has been led directly by James Farmer. So it feels like they're expanding. I reached out to them, and they're just growing their team to make it bigger than it already is. And I love their marketing. I'd say I really like it. All the superhero stuff. It touches a nerve for me because it's funny. I just like funny marketing. And so if that appeals to you and you fancy a full-time job with all the perks that they outline, go check that out. So there we go. Nice little plug for them. And sorry.
They're working from it's a work from home, right?
Yeah, it's a work from anywhere gig, I think, so long as you put in the hours and what have you. Have you got any jobs, Ben? I'm literally putting you on the spot. Do you have any jobs you want to mention, or are you all...
I mean, we usually work with local. We have an office with employees, so we hire locally. But I've been working with for a couple of times with Brenda, who is also a writer for WPM UDev, and she does a great job. You know Brenda Barron?
I've heard the name. I confess I don't know
There are a few WordPress writers, not a lot.
No, it's a niche
superheroes.
within a niche, isn't it? Yeah.
A good niche.
Yeah, they're in high demand, it would seem. Well, anyway, next time you've got some jobs coming around the pipe, Ben, you hook us up and we'll mention them in the same way that we did just then. WordPress caching,
5% commission.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's at 5% commission. That's all we charge.
Either that or just a free chicken.
That's low. That's actually
Free chicken.
Yeah, just send me some poultry. If you want to know about WordPress caching, I'm not going to hand this one over to anybody. It's a great big article on SpinUp WP, who offer this service. You know, they've got their product is based around headless and all of that kind of stuff, and obviously caching is a big part of that. So if you've got any notion of learning about WordPress caching, go and read that article. That's quite nice. And Yoast,
I'll just make one quick comment.
Yeah, please.
Sorry. I was just going to say, it's probably the most approachable article on caching I've ever read. It's really well written, just the right level of technical detail without going too stupidly in depth. And there's some great links to further resources as well.
Yep.
So yeah, if it's something that you've been struggling with, I'd highly recommend starting here.
That's exactly my take as well. I read it all and just thought, actually, I've been totally schooled. I learned a great deal and obviously we're quite ignorant in many ways before that. So yeah, thumbs up for that article, and those guys know what they're on about. And the next one is Yoast. This just hadn't even occurred to me. Yoast did a sort of like a, they're a bit like WPM UDev. They've now got a clear marketing message. Whoever their artist is, they've obviously employed some kind of full-time artist who produces these wonderful little cartoons every time they do a blog post, and it's great. And they're talking about, I just delete WordPress posts when I don't need them anymore, and they're making the point that don't delete them, do something with them, repurpose them, make sure that the links don't break. And so that's all the article was about. It was just me alerting you to the fact that, well, if you've got an article that's got any amount of SEO juice, any amount of backlinks throughout the internet, for goodness sake, don't delete them, 401 them, 301 them, whatever, do something with them.
What I can interject here, that there's the plugin Broken Link Checker.
Good.
Which I use on some of my websites. It works. I mean, you delete it and then you forget that you have a million links around your website that links to it. And that actually is a great plugin because it works in the background and finds you a few of those broken links.
Perfect. Yeah, I confess that I had used years ago and I'd forgotten of its existence. So, yeah, just go and, it's a no-brainer. Install it, check it, then maybe uninstall it and do the same thing next time you're thinking of deleting anything. Yeah, good point. Anyway, it was a bit of an aside, that one. So now we come to Ben, because the next article is on a website which one or two of you may have heard of. It's called Elementor.com. It's this little tiny niche page builder thing that, it's doing rather well, isn't it, Ben? And you've got an article this week, which actually you wrote, and I honestly didn't know you were coming on at the time. I had forgotten. And introducing custom icons. You might want to go more broad than this, because it's not just the custom icons, it's the whole icon area that you've revamped over the last few weeks. So yeah, hit us with your Elementor updates.
So these are actually two updates that we did. This is one, the custom icons was the second release. The first one was a whole new icon library. So we completely rebuilt the library, made it React based. So that was released for everyone, for all free users, and everyone can use it. Can use custom SVG icons, and we upgraded to Font Awesome 5 and built a whole new UI that's much more broad. Gives you a whole view of all the icons. You can look on it on a clear window and easily filter them. And for the Pro release, we actually added an integration to Font Awesome 5, which gives you like over 5,000, like 5,300 icons, and I think that's more than
it's more than enough. Yeah.
Also, you can also there's font icon generators. Those services.
Yeah, like Fontello and Fontastic and things. Yeah.
So yeah, we are actually, I think, the only design tool to integrate to 3 of those libraries. So you can actually download your own icons for any of those 3, Fontello, Icomoon, and Fontastic. You can download it and then upload your own set of icons and create families. So I found for the video that I made, I found the funniest icon.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is called the nasty icon.
Yeah.
It's the icon. I don't know who created it, but they had really a twisted mind. But I guess that's why you have there people with heads chopped off and all sorts of things. You should check out. I really like the creative mind of this person. So this and many other. It's a complete solution for using icons. And I don't know if you talked about it in the past, but using icons is really smart in terms of loading time and performance. If you can really tweak it and use it properly, you can create really nice looking websites that are also fast loading.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's really nice. We had mentioned it when we did exactly this thing. We talked about your new icon library, and actually David McCann has just dropped a nice comment in. He said the new Elementor icon UI is very nice, so that's good. And we concurred. We think it's the best in the business. The little cards, the little square cards, just make it really easy to see, and the filtering down on the left is really nice. But this release also, you've got reCAPTCHA version 3 implemented, so that you don't have to you don't have to go through the whole reCAPTCHA thing quite so laboriously. And I like this. There was a bit at the bottom of this post about the pop-up exit animations, which I thought was quite nice. So you spent some time not only making them swoop in nicely, but when you say go away, they swoop out nicely as well. That's cool.
Yeah, and we actually have this Thursday. We have a template set release that actually showcases some of those things like exit animation for the pop-up. So check that out.
What's that? Tell me more. What's the template release? What's happening there, or is it all under the hood?
It's it's a sneak peek, but
okay.
We're going to start to release these monthly template kits that are the problem when you use templates, you have one single one and you can't build a whole website with it. So we're actually going to release a whole set of website templates, so you can actually pick build an entire site with a homepage and contact. Each time it will be on a different subject matter.
Okay.
So this is coming up real soon.
Ooh, Thursday. Elementor users, keep your eyes peeled for their, no doubt, promotional emails coming out on Thursday. Oh, thanks, Ben. That was nice. And nice to have it from the horse's mouth, as we say in British English, at least anyway, coming from the person that really, really knows. That's lovely. Jay, you're going to finish off the bit that you started earlier, because we spoke about headless and WP GraphQL, and here we are again talking about ACF again with WP GraphQL. Do you want to just run down what this is and how it works and whatnot?
Yeah, so most people that have been around WordPress for a little while have at least heard of the WordPress REST API, and GraphQL is another way of interacting or getting data out of WordPress using effectively an API. It's sort of GraphQL is like a query language that can interact with a website from a different internet, so a different website. So you might have website A and website B, and you use GraphQL to query website A and pull the data into website B. And it's not a standard feature of WordPress, but it's a modern way of basically surpassing REST API. So effectively, what WP GraphQL is, there's an extension by Jason Ball, which is basically being sponsored now by Gatsby.js.
Yeah.
And WP GraphQL for advanced custom fields was a pro extension, which was, I think it had plans starting from about $50 per year. And now, because Jason's been employed by Gatsby.js, he's actually releasing that plugin free. So it's going to be part of his work at Gatsby.js. So he's going to be building the core WP GraphQL plugin and also supporting the advanced custom field plugin for free. And it's available now on GitHub. And one of the things when you're looking at GraphQL as opposed to interacting with the WordPress REST APIs. It's actually a much faster way of interacting with the WordPress call. So, for example, it compares in the article, it's comparing the performance of a REST API call versus a GraphQL call, and it's significant. So, for example, the same query in using the REST API takes it's 24 kilobytes or almost 25, and it takes 1.22 seconds to download, whereas the same query in GraphQL, it's less than a kilobyte and it's 377 milliseconds, so it's like a fourth of the time to come back to you. So just the performance is much better.
Yeah.
It's also a simpler way to actually interface with WordPress if you're going headless as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just great news.
And I believe it's now free as well, hasn't he? Given it over because he started working for Gatsby.
Yeah.
He's given it. I think has it gone into GitHub? I think I'm going to say that. So it's completely free.
It's available on GitHub.
Yeah, Mike Sale pointed that out, which is great. Thanks. I'd forgotten that little fact. I wonder how Jason Ball. I wonder how many times he's in the office and people say the word JSON, and he turns around and no. Oh. Okay, that was a rubbish joke. I'm not going to do that joke ever again because it was so bad. Okay, next. It was almost as bad as your chicken joke, but here we go.
It wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
I made a bad business decision.
Let's talk about Toolset, another company based out of Israel, like Elementor, and Amir Helzer has been on the podcast, I think 3 times now, talking about his WPML and Toolset and all the good stuff that those guys do. And Paul, you're going to tell us about the fact that they've gone Bootstrap 4.
Yeah, funny thing is, I actually installed Toolset just this weekend. There was a website that I was working on that I'd used Beaver Builder with, and I'd used it for hardly anything. So I just decided to take the page builder out of the equation on this one, and I installed Toolset, and I saw the new Bootstrap 4 stuff. So this article is actually about that. They've implemented Bootstrap 4 into Toolset plugin, and it goes into a little bit of detail, but not much. It says it's going to there's going to be some tutorials coming out to show you how to use it, but it kind of shows you how quickly you can hook up output from Toolset to make it have the visual style from Bootstrap 4. So it gives you a nice example of content cards, which is the typical photo, text, and then a nice kind of material style. I say material, it's Bootstrap, 2 different things, but that Bootstrap 4 type look.
It's chicken and eggs, Paul. It's chicken and eggs.
It is. It's super useful. Coming back to Toolset after probably 2 years, because I know you used to use Toolset as well, Nathan. It was a lot easier to use, I have to say.
Yep.
The user interface cleaned up significantly.
Yep.
And when you created a view, it did take you through step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, what do you want to do about this? And then the output was nice and beautiful and clean code and stuff like that. So anyway, the other thing that's in this article is that they have also launched a new marketing podcast called the WordPress Marketing Podcast. So I just went and had a quick look at that, and it's only just on, and guess who's on it straight away? Vito Peleg.
Well, there's Vito. I reckon there's 9 of him. I think there's at least 9 Vitos throughout the planet.
We're release a podcast with him as well.
Yeah.
He means business.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. It's amazing. It's a force of nature.
Can I ask a question, Paul?
Yeah.
So was this a website that you had Toolset on previously and you've come back to it, or was it a brand new project?
No, it's a brand new project that was pretty much finished, and then I fired an email over to the client on the weekend saying I'm going to do some more optimization. I don't think we need a page builder on this website just for one page, and I was using Beaver Thema as well for the archives, and I just decided that this was more like a bloggy type website, and I just wanted it to be as absolutely streamlined in the code as possible, and so I just decided to go and take a look. And to be honest, mine and your friendship, Jay, was based on our mutual discussions around Toolset a good couple of years ago, wasn't it? So, and yeah, it was good to go back and see it, because we're tending to go simpler than we still use obviously Beaver Builder and stuff like that. But we're constantly trying to simplify everything that we're doing and using less modules and trying to create cleaner code and everything. So yeah, it was nice to go and have a look at it. But the Bootstrap 4 stuff looks pretty cool. I don't know what kind of weight that puts on a page in terms of loading stuff in. No, Bootstrap 3 used to be a little bit heavy, but I imagine Bootstrap 4 has done some work to use modern CSS and JavaScript techniques to make it a lot more lightweight than it used to be.
Yeah, they don't get the well, I mean, here we are, making a joke of the fact that we always talk about ACF. I think toolset, what's the word I want to pick here? I think it was hard to learn it because it was trying to do things which were supremely complicated. It was really tackling difficult stuff and making that as easy as it was possible to be, despite the fact that that was still quite hard. And you're right, I think they've done an awful lot of cleaning up. They've launched a load of new products. They've dropped the layouts now. They've gone all in on Gutenberg. And I know that they've made a lot of great connections with the guys at Elementor, and they and their forms thing, I think it's called Forms, just Forms. That's fabulous. It's really great. Time to look at that again and remember that it is trying to do something hard, and doing that is difficult. To make the UI for that drop dead simple is almost impossible. Chris Hughes makes the comedy point that if you just want to find a new podcast, just Google the word veto, and you'll find a whole range of new WordPress based podcasts. That's right.
I vetoed that. No.
Where are we next, Paul? It's you again, but I'll just introduce this one. It's about Lifter LMS and let's keep this one short if that's all right, Paul. It's about Lifter LMS and their new sort of video capabilities, which I actually think are dead cool, even though I don't use LMSs.
Cool. So this is obviously Chris Badgett's product, isn't it? Lifter LMS, who's on this show quite a bit, and this to me shows again somebody knowing their audience. So Lifter is a product that does everything you need for the. So if you go with some of the other solutions in WordPress for LMSs, then not all of them will give you everything you need. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then this is a typical thing that teachers of courses want to know of how much of a particular video has somebody watched, or have they watched all the video before they can go to the next module, because that's important for some people. So I just love this because I've got some friends who've made courses and didn't use WordPress, and I think the word one of my mates used was esoteric. I had to Google what the word meant, which I think means
esoteric.
Something along the
means
I think it means
outgoing, of the outside. Yeah.
I thought,
it's on the inside. It's exoteric. That's
it's more like so WordPress is his experience of trying to do a course in WordPress was that it seemed to be a system based for people who were in the know.
Right.
So he went with a different system. He went with Kyvio. But if you look at a project like Lifter LMS, then it knows what it's doing and it takes over for you, and it lets you do the course. It lets you have the shopping cart, and now it helps you with this new update have some good controls over the video in there.
Good. Yeah, nice controls over the video. So it does things like you've always wanted to have, I suppose. It's things like it tells you the ability to require learners to watch the whole lesson before they can go on to the next one. They've got advanced analytics so that you can sort of figure out how far people have got through, player branding and all that kind of stuff. And it just strikes me as
a software competition.
Yeah.
Of course, LearnDash and Lifter LMS, I think these are the two main competitors. I think there's also a WooCommerce, WooThemes solution called
Sensei, I think it is. Yeah.
Sensei.
Yeah. Sensei, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a competitive market, and some of the SaaS platforms, Teachable and the one that you've just mentioned, Kyvio, and all the others, they're hammering on the door because you just pay the money, don't have to think about upgrades, just give them the $99 a month or whatever tier you're on, and that's it. You concentrate on your course. And for some people who aren't in the WordPress space, that's exactly what they want. And so it's a tough area, but good on them. Good on you, Chris, and your team. That's fabulous. Well done. Jay, do you want to talk about this? Because we're running short of time. Are you wanting to go about on this comments thing?
I've just got one comment for the comments thing.
Okay.
No, it's interesting. I just thought it was probably the last area I personally would want Gutenberg blocks in, like for comments. I mean, one, a lot of people turn comments off on websites, but two, it's not somewhere I would want to expose Gutenberg personally. But I mean, I know it's just an experimentation. It's just, they're just mucking around. I don't think it's necessarily considered for core at this stage, but it just seemed like I just thought it was an odd spot to, you know, for me, I think I just want to be able to just type some text, press submit, and maybe put an emoji. But yeah. It just seemed a bit. I just thought, what was the point? What's the purpose at this stage? Unless they changed.
What have they gone for? They've gone for left, right. This is the usual alignment options: bold, italics, adding hyperlinks, and paragraph H1, H2, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, somebody, I guess that all these developers out there are trying to figure out what they can possibly do with WordPress, and comments might be one of them. But yeah, fair enough, Jay. I don't think I'll be going anywhere near it. Actually, interestingly, I'm using Facebook comments on my website, and I'm thinking of switching that off because it's just a bit of a silo, and I also have no idea where those comments end up most of the time. Thinking of reinstating WordPress comments. I'm going to move on to Delicious Brains. This is for those guys who want a nice way of offloading your emails. They've got this plugin called WP Offload SES, and they've basically every email that comes out of WordPress goes through Amazon's simple email service. And this is just to say that their plugin has been updated so that you can see who's read what, whether it was opened, and if somebody hasn't opened something, you can just click a handy little button and it'll resend the email again. We all know, don't send emails from your own server, use something else. And this Amazon SES is absurdly cheap. It's like 1,000 emails per US cent, or I'm pretty sure that's right. It's crazy cheap. And the next one, which is, I guess this is you, Paul. You've gone for a slightly controversial version of Orange because you color everything orange. But you want to talk about Beaver Builder and their off-canvas menu, which I actually quite like.
Yeah, it's just a new module that allows you to have like a fly-out navigation menu. So if someone has seen this on PowerPack, for instance, I think PowerPack has got this one at the moment. Because if there's the two major Beaver Builder add-on packs, there's PowerPack and Ultimate Add-ons. And sometimes one has got one module that the other one hasn't got, and usually they catch up with each other. So this really is just an article to me that Ultimate Add-ons has now got that module. Yeah. So if you went for that particular add-on pack, and that's the one that you use, then you've got quite a good module for creating kind of fly-out menus and stuff like that, especially if you're using something like Beaver Thema. Yeah,
you can trigger it with a button and it flies in from the left, flies in from the right, and it's the normal stuff. But quite nice for kind of did you notice stuff, recent posts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I know that they do an exact similar suite of products for Elementor as well. I think in fact Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor.
Recently, I think it's Google and Yelp reviews that they add. You can add really nicely to your site using their add-on.
Oh, nice! Yeah,
that's a really good module. I think that one, the reviews one, because it's just something that people would find really difficult to do otherwise. So yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's always these like edge cases, people trying to figure out how to make things slightly different and slightly better, and amazing what they come up with. When those kind of like add-on packs for whichever page builder came out, it was always really interesting to go in and start playing around, see what people wanted to do and what was possible and what was not into core. And quite interesting the approach that Elementor have taken to put a lot of that stuff into the core, even the free version, and ship, especially with the pro version. A lot of that stuff is available out of the box, whereas
but we also do support all the extendability of Elementor, and seen some really amazing things. We're now covering a facet. We're going to cover it in an upcoming article, how they create a filter that integrates into Elementor. So you get all these really, esoteric, plugins and solutions that fit different niches,
Yeah, it's great. Really cool ecosystem. You kind of these page builders, they've all built up heads of steam, enough market share that it's worth spending time building stuff to add on to it, because there's a business in making things which bolt onto a page builder, which is great. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to not even mention, there's a few bits of security news, please. I'll mention the plugins. There's WP Super Cache. If you've got that installed, basically go and get it updated, and then click the links in the show notes. We're kind of a bit short of time. WP builds. We had a podcast episode this week about managing tasks or not managing tasks. If you're into like David and I's approach to how we get things done, or basically fall flat on our faces and fail miserably, then go and check that out. Also, we did a webinar with Peacher Neri this week, all about UI and UX. It was really nice. We decided to do it in Facebook Live, and we had a ton of people commenting. I was really surprised. Loads of people showed up and made really interesting comments, and universally saying that was really interesting. I learned a load. Nothing to do with me. It was all Peacher. I just pressed the go button and she just went for it, and she was brilliant. So go and check that out if you want a few tips on UI and UX. And we're going to do that on a monthly basis. So we're going to get her on the call. You'll submit your websites, hopefully, and say, what do you think about this? And then Peacher will go, well, what about this? Try this, move this over here, make this red, that kind of thing. And that's it for the WordPress news. Couple of things right at the very bottom that have got nothing to do with WordPress. Everybody go check out the Emmet link, because it's a dead cool Chrome plugin for looking at the breakpoints in your website all at the same time. It's like a Kanban board, but each lane is a version of your website, and you can scroll and they all move at the same time. But the rest of it is not that important. So we'll just let you click on those links. And I'm done. Thank you for joining us again. We had a load of people making comments in the Facebook group. Mike Sale, that was great, super helpful, and so on and so forth. A few nice little comments about Elementor and your icon library in there, Ben. That's quite nice. So I'm going to say, from me at least anyway, come back next week. Come and join us this time next week, where we'll be droning on, no doubt, about chickens and eggs and all things poultry with this wrong way, with this man here, Paul Lacey. Are you on next week, Paul? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's your solo episode. I don't know. But yeah, if any of you want to, should we go in turn? What are you doing this week, Paul? Anything exciting?
Yeah. So my wife and 2 kids have gone on holiday without me. So, and the actual reason is because we couldn't get anyone to look after the chickens. So I'm going on holiday with them in 2 weeks' time for my one. Where we all go together. But yeah, so I'm actually quite excited to be able to do whatever I want for an entire week.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it probably means I'll just do loads of work, but at least I'm aiming for inbox 0. So that's my aim for this week. So I'll let you know how that goes.
I've got a tip, right? Click that little button at the top, which is select all. Then press delete, and then watch Game of Thrones endlessly on the loop for an entire week. What about you, Jay? Anything happening this week?
Nothing too exciting for me this week, to be honest. I'm just basically doing websites and internet stuff.
Hacking around on the internet.
Actually, I was going to say, if we're talking Game of Thrones, though, there's a video of a guy who was locked in a room for the weekend. That's James Corbin, I think. The late night host. Yeah. He had one of his staffers come in, and it's just basically Game of Thrones marathon, all 8 seasons. No, I think it was 7 seasons up to season 8. In just one weekend.
Oh, you'd come out like super pasty and pale, wouldn't you? You wouldn't. You'd be like a vampire.
It's just highly watching.
It's good, but it isn't that good. And Ben, we've had a sneak peek. Something's happening for you this week. You've obviously got something being launched on Thursday. But anything else exciting in the Elementor or Ben Pine world this week?
I finished Chernobyl, which is a great show. Horrific, but really good show. And I'm reading Contagious. Do you know this book? It's a really interesting book about marketing, written by a Wharton professor, and it's about how things become viral, and it actually has some interesting perspective on what makes things. I think it was written in 2011 or 12, something like that, but things are still relevant. A really good book.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much. That's good. It feels like we should do a what are you reading? What are you watching on telly bit at the end? That's cool. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I'm gonna say thanks for joining us. You know what? Every single week I say thanks for joining us, and then basically click the stop button. And every week everybody yells in the comments that we cut them off. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to click stop long after we've paused, so everybody has to just maintain some kind of statue-like pose for about 10 seconds, starting from now. And I've done